Even though this video is labeled as part 1, it is actually the second video in the series. Part 0 details everything that leads up to and including the 7th Umbral calamity itself. If you haven't yet, please watch the previous video. Before we start, I think we may need to discuss a little bit about how errors work in this game. When an Umbral calamity occurs, like the one we discussed in our previous video, it begins what is known as an Umbral era. An Umbral era is a time where the world is meant to be in a bad shape. The planet is attempting to recover from the damage dealt, and it tends to be a bad time for the people living there, as they have to deal with the aftermath of a calamity. However, after it settles down and some time passes, it begins a new era known as an Astral era. This is known to make the lands prosperous, with very little evil occurring. People tend to be happier, so less conflict happens. It's just worth a mention, as it's quite important and I didn't touch on it on my previous video. The beginning of A Realm Reborn has the Warrior of Light awaken 5 years after the 7th Umbral calamity, right in the middle of the 7th Umbral era. The world looks relatively the same, aside from a few areas that show us some remnants of battle, but the Aether has weakened. Hydaelyn is still in the recovery period after what Bahamut did. The story differs a little bit at the beginning depending on which job you choose at first. If you chose a gladiator, a thaumaturge, or a pugilist, you'd start in Ul'dah. If you chose a marauder or an arcanist, you start in Limsa Lominsa. And if you chose a conjurer, or a lancer, or an archer, you'd begin your journey in Gridania. My video will be going from the perspective of someone who chose Ul'dah as their starting zone. As I originally started the game as a gladiator, I did a playthrough through the other campaigns to see where the differences begin and end, but to be honest, they aren't that big of a change from one another that it's worth mentioning. The only interesting parts lie in the beginning of the cutscenes that give you a little bit of a rundown as to how the city-states are faring after the calamity. Limsa Lominsa is Eorzea's biggest naval power that was once a city ruled by pirates until the Admiral fixed up the place and turned it into a proper city. There are still some remnants of pirates to deal with, but the Admiral knows how to deal with them. Limsa Lominsa also has to deal with the Sahagin and the Kobold Beast tribes. If you started in Limsa Lominsa, your partner throughout the beginning of the game will be your Stola. Gridania lies in the middle of the Black Shroud, which is Eorzea's biggest forest. They are a peaceful city and they do not want conflict unless they have to. They have to deal with the Sylphs and the XIV beast tribes. If you started your journey in Gridania, your partners will be Yida and Papalmo. We open on a vision. We see an empty void but a bright light in the distance. We attempt to move closer towards the bright light, but are forced to stop as a mysterious man in the black coat blocks our path. We are unable to fight, but a mysterious voice guides us, empowers us, provides us with a blade forged of light, and we are able to fend off the man. We awake, riding a chocobo caravan, aiming for Ul'dah, but before we are able to arrive, we are stopped by a group known as the Brass Blades. The Brass Blades are a corrupt faction of guards that defend Eorzea's streets. The issue is that they answer to whoever pays the most. Their loyalty can be bought easily, and most people see them as common crooks rather than guards that can be trusted. You will run into them a lot throughout the Ul'dah storyline. They plant an illegal herb known as Somnus on the caravan and tell us to pay a fine or we're going to rot in jail for the rest of our lives. By a stroke of luck, an Amalja ambush happens and we are allowed to make haste towards Ul'dah. The Amalja is a beastman tribe that is situated within Thanalan. We will also be hearing from this tribe a lot throughout the story. The merchant tells us about how Ul'dah functions as a city-state. We learn that Ul'dah is run by the Sultana, but the Syndicate actually holds all the real power. The Syndicate is the group of the 6 most wealthy people in Ul'dah who formed initially just as an advisory role, but ended up gaining a lot of power through a faction known as the Monetarists. They would love to get rid of the Sultana to allow for all of Ul'dah to fall into their grasp, but the opposing faction, known as the Royalists, won't allow that to happen. On top of that, Ul'dah has to deal with the Amalja and their constant threat to the lands, more so than we know. After this discussion, we reach Ul'dah and are asked to talk to Momodi, who runs the Adventurers Guild. We do a few newbie things, but not too long after, we are told to report to a man named Papa Shan. Papa Shan is a station master, an old man trying to live out the last of his life doing honest work. We are told that a nobleman's daughter has disappeared. We don't want to take too long to find her, as if word gets out, malicious people may attempt to take her hostage for coin. We search around and end up finding a Nalafal named Lilia. A man known as Thancred arrives and apparently is her personal bodyguard. Before we can return to Papa Shan, we are attacked by a monster. The monster drops a peculiar looking crystal. Upon interacting with the stone, we have a vision of a magic circle, and one of the circles light up. A mysterious voice named Hydaelyn communicates to us for the first time. We start to realize that our journey might be more important than we think. Hydaelyn asks for our aid to restore the light in the realm and banish the darkness that came from it. So it is now up to us to figure out a way to restore the light to Hydaelyn. We awake after our vision. It seems like the monster we killed was known as a void scent, and whoever sent it must be the darkness Hydaelyn wants us to purge. Sometime later, we hear a rumor that a merchant named Wyston is recruiting adventurers to protect his team as they prospect ore. Just as the team thought they hit a gold mine, there is more trouble with the brass blades. They have been sent to gather the ore for themselves and kill anyone who tries to take it. But out of nowhere, a mysterious figure wearing a black robe casts an incantation, causing the ore to form a golem. We defeat the golem, and Thancred catches up to us and causes us to have a vision yet again. This vision is set in the past. It depicts Thancred more than 5 years prior. He is walking around Ul'dah and overhears civilians talking about Amalja attacking caravans that are carrying crystals. Thancred states this was done to summon a primal. It then snaps to a shot of Dalamud slowly falling towards Eorzea, stating that Dalamud is affecting the aether around it, making it hard to grow crops. The final vision depicts Thancred near a stone of the 12. We are not too sure what these visions all mean at this point, but it alludes to Thancred being more of an important character than he lets on. We awake after our vision and learn from Thancred that the brass blades were most likely hired by Lord Lolorito, one of the syndicate. It seems wise that we shouldn't make an enemy of him. Not so long after, a letter is read to us from Momodi, and we find out that the royal crown has been stolen. If it were to be made public that the royal crown had gone missing, then the Sultana's reputation would be tarnished, leaving Ul'dah in the hands of the syndicate. We are sent off, letter in hand, to go and meet who the letter was actually intended for, and offer our aid if they need it. Owain, the youngest member of the Sultan Sworn, a group of people who swore their loyalty to the Sultana. We arrange a meet with the thieves and do a trade deal for the crown. However, what we didn't realize is that we actually gave them the means to raise the dead. Just as our fate looks grim, Papa Shan, the Lalafell from earlier, and the fellow Sultan Swarm show up to aid us in their defeat. It seems like Papa Shan wasn't just some station master after all. The Flame General noticed that Owain snuck into the vault and ordered Papa Shan to follow him, as something must be aloof. We hear that more criminals are to the north, and we attempt to follow them, but we are stopped yet again by a mysterious masked mage who summons a void scent to battle with us. Thancred comes to our aid, and we defeat the masked mage and his thrall. We learn that the mages donned in black are known as Ashians. Thancred refers to us as the Gifted. This could potentially have something to do with the visions we've been having ever since we grabbed that first aetherite crystal. We return to Papa Shan and the rest of the Sultan Swan. He states that the crown has been recovered and that they thank us for our cooperation. Our deed did not go unacknowledged, as the Sultana herself, Nanamo Ui Namo, comes to thank us personally for bringing her crown back, and invites us to a banquet as a guest of honor. At this time we also meet Rawbarn, the Immortal Flames General, who also thanks us on behalf of Ul'dah itself. Some time passes. We arrive at the banquet. Nanamo cutely climbs Roban's shoulder to give a speech to thank the heroes of old and new, and hopes that everyone will enjoy their time here. Roban comes to talk to us about the Syndicate and how they don't allow the Sultana to do anything. Ul'dah won't return to its former glory if the crown's power isn't restored. Roban notices that we have something shiny hidden in our pocket and asks us to show him that crystal. He questions if we've been having visions. We respond with a slight nod. He tells us we remind him of the heroes of old, who fought against the Primals, helped form the Eorzean Alliance, and fought off the Garlemald Empire at the Battle of Cartanu, but all disappeared with the tragedy that occurred 5 years prior. It seems that nobody can remember their names or faces, just silhouettes with a blinding light. This is why they are now referred to as the Warriors of Light, and that every time Roban looks at us, he can't help but think of them. We are told that the crystal we bear is actually a gift from Hydaelyn, and that we should protect it no matter what. In the middle of this conversation, we start having another vision. We have a vision of the Battle of Cartanu. An Ashian is standing atop of a hill, watching, alluding to the fact that they may have caused all of this to occur. Something is happening down at the battlefield, but all the leaders can do is stand around and watch their men die. The Eorzean Alliance are forced to retreat from this battle. Roban is unwilling and won't abandon the Archon, but is convinced by the Gridanian leader stating that she will stay behind and back up Louis Soir. We awake from our vision in our room. We learn that Momodi escorted us back to our room, and we are told that the Flame General wants to see us. Roban gives us a letter and tells us to give it to the other leaders of the Grand Companies. He wants to hold a memorial service for the Battle of Cartanu, as 5 years have now passed. We are going to be journeying as Roban's representative to Gridania and Limsa Lominsa. We are given airship privileges to do just that. We return to Momodi again to tell her of the news. She responds saying that we are lucky to even have airship privileges in the first place, as most people die before ever seeing Eorzea from the above. We arrive on an airship heading towards Limsa Lominsa, a pirate city surrounded by water. We cut to a different location, known as Castrum Occident, to see that the Imperials are still actively planning something. Even though they lost a lot of firepower with the destruction of their flagship 15 years ago by Midgard-Solmer, Father of Dragons, they want to take over Eorzea so they can bring Eorzea to salvation with the Garlean rule. We see them carrying some sort of machine with the tail away, but that won't be introduced till way later. We arrive at Limsa Lominsa and meet their general. Sorry, I'm going to attempt to pronounce this name. Merilweb Blofusween. We give her the letter for the memorial and she starts to recap the Battle of Cartanu. If you want a complete recap of the battle, please go and check out my previous video. Even with the issues around Bahamut being resolved, there are still more pressing issues as the Beast Tribe still attempts to summon primals to torment the land, and there is the ever-looming threat of the Garlean Empire. She accepts the proposal and states that she will attend the memorial service. Afterwards we set sail for Gridania to meet the elder Seerseer Khan-e Senna. She also reiterates what the previous generals have told us about the Battle of Cartanu. Again, refer to my previous video, it will be in the description below. We learn that Garlemald still has some presence in Eorzea, which is known as the 14th Imperial Legion, which we saw earlier. It is headed by Legatus Gaius von Belzar, a man who will stop at no bounds to get Eorzea under his control. It turns out that the three Grand Companies as they are do not have enough power to repel the Empire or even deal with the primals that reside in their own lands. She also accepts the proposal as there is a storm approaching, and doing a memorial service will bring the nations together and rekindle old bonds. We return to Ul'dah, and mid-conversation we hear a girl screaming. So being the hero that we are, we rush out to her aid. It seems that she is claimed to be a thief, even though she denies these claims. The man tries to give her a super creepy ultimatum until we decide to get in the way and knock some sense into those thugs. The damsel is thankful, but out of nowhere another vision occurs, showing us that many refugees have been trying to enter Ul'dah as of recent, as their settlements have collapsed due to the aftermath of the calamity. They all come to Ul'dah as it has a history of being a rich and prosperous city, so they test their luck here. However, what the refugees do not know is that the city is in a dire state. The people are turning to crime as they have a lack of coin. At the end of the vision, we see that the woman did actually pay for her dodo meat and was in fact telling the truth. We run into Thancred and he says he's been trailing us since we left the main city as an envoy and has been lying in wait for us to come. He wants us to join a band named the Scions of the 7th Dawn, and if we want more information we need to speak to Momodi. Upon speaking to Momodi, we learn that the Scion's headquarters is located in western Thanalan, in a little place named the Waking Sands. Upon arriving at the Waking Sands, we run into a guard, but not just any guard, a Lalafell singing a tune. She goes by the name of Tataru, and she asks us for our reason for coming. We tell her that Thancred sent us. She lets us go through, and we go on to meet the leader of the Scions, Minfilia. We learn that the Scions of the 7th Dawn are a group of individuals who made it their mission to create a future for Eorzea, and to fulfill this mission, they are recruiting individuals who share the same beliefs. She asks us about our visions. She tells us it's an ability that is known as the Echo. It allows man to go past his soul and resonate with other souls, to take memories from people you have never met, to gain advantages when needed. However, it is not possible to control, so it can never really be used as an advantage. Our first target is the Primals. Every city-state is currently struggling with the Primals, and they use up a lot of Aether, which affects Eorzea's healing process. They must be dealt with, for the best of the nations. She believes we are given the Echo to do great things in this world, and that the Echo is a solution to the Primals. We are given the opportunity to join the Scions of the 7th Dawn, and are asked to think on it. Obviously we take no time and immediately reply, and with that we are an official member of the Scions of the 7th Dawn. And that ends part 1 of the retelling of Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn's main story quest. I initially recorded my script and edited it together, and it came out to around 1 hour and 10 minutes. So I decided to split the video into 3 so I can edit on it while still uploading something every so often. I thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. If you're interested in more content like this, consider subscribing. May you ever walk in the light of the crystal.